Y'all planning for this?
Welcome back, TPR Nation. This is Jamie Schlansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer, and I am fired up to share with you some of the information that I learned at a recent conference. It's fall, so that's when all the conferences seem to be planned. We, of course, always attend conferences that do not interfere with our Surge schedule. We run Surge at our RIA up in Anchorage, Alaska. Surge is where we have specific time block periods in which we do nothing but meet back-to-back with clients and prospects. They are strategically planned out almost a year in advance at Schlansky & Associates, and we encourage you, do not reinvent the wheel. Do not come up with 1,000 reasons about how your practice is so unique and so different. It probably isn't. It's probably the exact same whether you're a solo practitioner or you have an enterprise office. And this is how I know it's the exact same as ours, because even though we niche and we target a lot of federal employees, and that's who we specifically work with, and small business owners, there's still people. There's still people. It doesn't matter where they work or what they do. There's still people. And that means in the spring, between March and April, guess what they're going to be thinking about? Taxes. Everyone is going to be thinking about taxes. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you work with IBEW, if you work with Nike, if you work with tech startups, they're all going to be thinking about their taxes in March and April. So we specifically surge during that time period. Why? Because it makes sense for the clients. It makes sense for the clients. Everything we do is about making sense for the clients. Now, during the summertime, we take 1 week out of the month and we do mini surges. Mini surges are normally about 3 days long. And those are for follow-up with new clients to get the new client process started. They're prospect meetings if we don't want to wait too long. And things are going to come up throughout the year. So we do these little mini surges throughout the summer. We tinkered a lot with mini surges. We thought about spacing them out and doing them on a quarterly basis and a couple of different things. This is the strategy that has worked the most successfully. Every time we wrap up surge, we always have an end of surge meeting, and we'll get the entire team together. One of our hard rules during surge is there are no changes. There are no changes during surge. If something goes catastrophically wrong, we might pivot, but for the most part, all those brand new ideas, policies, procedures that we're thinking of because we're in the motions of surging, nothing is allowed to get implemented. Nothing's allowed to get changed. But where does that live? Now, we have a hybrid office, so we put it on a virtual whiteboard. There's a physical whiteboard in our office, and our physical whiteboard, I'll grab a marker, jot over to, and I will make my notes about what we need to change or do differently during the next surge. But we don't make any changes mid-surge, and not at the beginning, not the middle, not at the end. And we wait until the next surge cycle. Now, why do we do that? Because when we change something during surge, it monkeys with our processes and it throws our entire team off. And as visionaries, as executives, as financial advisors, we think we are just so smart when we come up with these brand new ideas and it won't have any type of reverberation to our rest of our team. We don't understand why it would be so hard to pull a new report and offer it during mid-surge. And we are not thinking about all the time and energy it's going to take for our support team members to put that information together. So we like to channel our smartness and say, hey, and also if you're anything like me, you'll have a genius idea. And then when somebody starts to put it in motion, you're like, oh my God, stop. No, that's a terrible idea. Don't do it at all. So we need a place to live and a place to get flushed out. So we'll do our end of surge meeting. Now, our next big surge, that's in the fall, and that's going to be mid-October to mid-November. Why? Why do we do it mid-October to mid-November? Well, October, we also have tax deadlines, right? So September, October, we have those deadlines starting to wrap up. But it's also pre-holidays. It's pre-holidays. And clients love to get together and they want to talk about their estate planning. They want to talk about their net worth. They want to talk about the vision of looking forward. And it's also open enrollment for a lot of healthcare industries. And so we will start seeing a lot of conversations around long-term care and health. And that doesn't matter where you work. Like I said, our niche is working with federal employees. It doesn't matter what your niche is. Take our same surge schedule, and I bet you can apply it because in the end, they're all human beings. So we take that fall timeframe and we also surge during that process. But we don't attend conferences during surge. Why? It's exhausting because when you're at a conference, you're also on. And conferences, they go a long time, right? You've always got some wholesaler you want to talk talk to at 6:30 in the morning demoing a product. And then it'll go till 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night as you network and mingle with other people. I know at a venue I just got wrapped up with, we had breakfast at 7 a.m. We had a group dinner at, I think it was 6:30 p.m. and nobody was done till 11:30. Why? Because that is where the magic happens. That is where you get, like, I get a lot of great information from going to conferences. Some speakers are great to listen to. Some are like, I don't know why I was here, but I love the breaks. I love the breaks. One of the reasons I absolutely love breaks in attending conferences in finances is, as a woman, there's never a line for a bathroom when I go to a financial conference. It's fantastic. So I can pop in, pop out really, really quick, like I can't do anywhere else in the world when you go anywhere. But then I get an opportunity to talk with people and to chat with them and to hear about their background and experience. And a lot of people don't just start in financial planning. Sometimes a lot of financial advisors come to this career in their 30s or 40s. So maybe they did something else. And when I was talking to one of the gals I met, Jennifer, she was just a wealth of knowledge for me, but she brought to mind something that really resonated. And in a former life, she had run a staffing company. Well, as you may know from the Perfect RA, I have several different businesses that I help run. And as I run those organizations, staffing is constantly a conversation that I have. We're always in perpetual recruiting, and we're always looking for talent. We're always looking for industry changes. What are people gravitating towards, right? So we know that in 22, we had a mass exodus from the healthcare industry. Big times. I mean, we're going to have the reverberations of higher premiums for years to come, because during 2020, you had the impact of COVID and nobody shut down. Like, they were all double timing it. And then all of a sudden people started getting really burnt out. They got really exhausted. And it wasn't necessarily with the pandemic impact from patients that was exhausting. It was the bureaucratic changes. It was the constant, yes, the lobby's open. No, it's not. Today we're wearing masks. Today we're not. And so it was this back and forth policy that every single day they were coming in and having manager meetings because something was changing. And that was across all ways. That wasn't just your ER nurses, but that was also people in billing, right? We saw a lot of billing changes as doctors got paid for diagnosing COVID. And so it was just this constant stream of information, and they got really burnt out on it. As they got burnt out, they left the industry or took sabbaticals. When that happened, they were hiring a lot of temporary nurses. So a lot of full-time nurses that were working for, let's say, $75,000 a year stopped and said, hold on a second, I could give up my job and make double the amount of money and work a lot less hours and choose my shifts. I'm doing that. And so you had a lot of full-time nurses switch over to becoming reliefs. And we saw this across every healthcare industry, not just human, but also in animal medicine, a bunch of different areas. And so as employers, we're constantly looking for staff and in order to replace those positions, and they're getting exhausted by hiring relief, because relief is terrible for any type of business, right? Temporary help is difficult because they don't get your policies, they don't get your procedures. They'll come in to pinch hit, and then a year later when you have a question, they're not there anymore and you can't explain what happened with the client or patient. So, there's some negative aspects of hiring relief, but on the positive side, you kept the doors open, right? Because you had to have a worker there to do the job. And right now, especially, we still have a worker shortage in this country. And as we look for a skilled workforce, I have found that it's easier to hire skilled professionals. Gosh, I hate saying unskilled, but people like without licenses, without designations, without degrees. It's very difficult to hire those type of individuals. So as I was chatting with Jennifer, one of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to pick her brain, right? And she said, I don't do that anymore. I said, yeah, but we got this filter, right? If we've done something before, we're constantly seeing that light. And then Jennifer shared with me that she came from an entrepreneurial family. Well, then I knew I was in the right place at the right time, talking to the right person, because you can't shut that off in your head. You can't. When you talk to other people who come from small business family or small family business owners, you are constantly thinking about other businesses. You're constantly seeing their model and saying, oh, I would have done this, or oh, I would have done that, or man, they've got the wrong person over here. I would have done this, right? I checked into a luxury hotel. The person has pink hair and a nose ring. Now, personally, I don't really care what color your hair is, but if I'm paying $1,000 a night, I expect there to be a dress code for employees. That's just what I'm thinking in my head, right? And we're filtering through those lenses constantly. And a person in a customer service position tells us something and they say it wrong. I'm always correcting them. I'm always saying, hey, you know what? You should have said this. Right. And so going to a hotel, check in the hotel, they say, you get there at 2:00. They say, hey, your check-in's not allowed at 3. And I said, but you're still charging me for 24 hours. But, that aside, they say, well, your check-in's not till 3. Your room's not ready. You're going to have to wait. All right. When you're traveling, those words piss you off. Like they're so just freaking irritating. Even though you can leave your stuff with the bell desk, it's just irritating, right? Reverse it and say this instead. And this is what I will tell hotel staff. My son loves checking in with me. It's so great for him. I will say, hey, next time, this is what you need to say. You need to say, you know what? We're putting the final touches on your room. I'm afraid it's not ready just yet. However, we have a lovely restaurant just behind my desk, and we'd love to give you a complimentary glass of wine while you wait for your room to be finalized. What a different experience. What a different experience. It matters how you present your brand, how you present that to your clients and customers. So I knew Jennifer couldn't turn it off. I knew in her brain she was constantly thinking of ways that she could recruit and hire. And here's what she shared with me. And this is something that I had thought of and I'd actually talked to one of my chief operations officers about 2 years ago, because we have one company, we have 100 employees, and we are in perpetual hiring. We have a really high burnout ratio on it. And as I was talking to her about it, because her and I have to deal a lot with the hiring, the recruiting, the advertisements, and trying to get people, we had a conversation. And I said, gosh, you know what I want to do? I want to print down little business cards and say, if you ever come looking for a job, I want to be the first crack, right? Because how many times in our life have we talked to people that were like, you're just good. You're just good at your job. You're good at communicating. You're trying extra hard. You're doing something above and beyond. And that could be a Target employee, a Kroger employee, an airline employee, somebody that's already working that we just recognize it. We just see it, right? And we want to reach out to them and say, gosh, if you ever are looking, please come knocking on my door. So as I'm talking to Jennifer, she's sharing with me how she does that and how she talks to other people, and she just sees something inside of them and goes, you know what? If you are ever looking, let me know. And this could be a person on an airplane, a train, somebody that you just briefly encountered in the hair salon. So here's the action item I derived out of my conversation with her, and I want to share it with you. Instead of just thinking about printing down those business cards, I'm going to do it. And so since I have the talent and skill set to be able to, but I clearly deprioritize this, I'm going to kick it over to my graphic designer for $125. And I'm going to say, create me a business card and make it generic so I can apply it to anyone. And then give me a QR code that this person could hit a landing page and submit their resume anytime they go looking for a job. And so now I'm going to carry those around with me. And maybe it's the person I'm picking up pizza from. Maybe it's the dog groomer that came to my house. Maybe it's the person I sat across from on the airline. Whoever that individual is that I think has something, regardless of what industry or background they're in, I'm going to start doing this because I believe that if you find people with common values, you can generally change the world. But we have to also be willing to open some type of window or door. Now, I know that this strategy is successful. I know it yields results because I've done it one time before. I didn't have a business card, but my son's orthodontist, the receptionist out there, she was just phenomenal. She was great every time. She has a beautiful smile, of course, and a warm and engaging personality. And every time I'd walk through those doors, I'd be like, she was just like, how you doing? I not only do I have my son, but I help raise my niece. And she'd be like, how's your niece doing? And she'd go through that. She'd remember their names. She'd say, great. I know you're super busy. If you need to take a call, come out to your, truck and grab you real quick. I mean, just whatever it was, she was just really human, really personal, really good at her job, right? Now, I wanted so hard to actively recruit her for any one of my other organizations. But my spouse is very good fishing friends with the orthodontist she worked for. So I was under specific instructions that I was not allowed to recruit this individual at all, lest they lose a fishing buddy. And so I did not. I played nice. But I did happen to see her in Costco one time. And I said to her, I said, listen, I just think you're so great at your job. And I'm not allowed to recruit you. But if you ever change your mind, oh, I guess I did recruit her then. Oops. Okay. Thankfully, my spouse does not listen to this podcast at all. So we'll be just fine. But I told her, I said, if you ever go looking, I want to be the first place you come to. Now, in 2020, a lot of things happened. And she politically disagreed with her boss. There was some confrontations in the office about staying open, staying closed, masks, all this kind of stuff. And after 22 years of working with this orthodontist, she was let go. And she hadn't made any plans. She was going to be there forever. You know, she really liked her job. I don't know if 2020 brought out the best or worst in people. I always look for the positive side. And I think in some cases it brought out good things. This is one of the good things. Is she called me and she said, listen, for the first time as an adult, I'm looking for a job. Was it just a platitude? Were you just being nice when you said it? And I said, no, I wasn't just being nice. Give me your resume. I'm getting you an interview. I've got 2 employers I want to put you with right now, right? And those were companies that I was associated with. And we hired her and she's been with us ever since. And she's great at her job. And she had never in her life dreamed of going over to this other company. But because she was good, because she had that thing, because I reached out to her in that capacity, and she thought years later about it, right? Because everyone likes a compliment. Nobody's been ever been like, gosh, that person said I was good at my job. What a jerk. You know, that's never, ever happened. And so when people give us those compliments, when we recognize those individuals, we got to be able to give them those shout outs, right? We got to tell them what impact it made. In fact, it was great being at this conference because there were several people that had heard of the Perfect RA and had been avid listeners. And they came over and said, hey, listen, I just want to say thank you for this podcast. You know, it's amazing what you guys are doing. It really transformed. I love hearing what you have to say about X, Y, and Z. And those are great things. Like a lot of times, and I just shared this with my team when we came back, a lot of times our head is down and we're grinding, right? Like we are doing the work that's got to get done. And we don't go what my dad calls up Periscope. We don't go up Periscope a lot and we look around and say, hold on, am I making the impact that God put me here to make? And when we go to conference and venues like this, and people have the courage to come up and say, hey, listen, I listen and I appreciate what you're doing, it is so humbling. It is so humbling to know that. And it gives us such profound gratitude to have a platform to be able to meet and talk with like-minded people and share those values and collaborate and discuss things and be able like, hey, you have this problem too. How are you solving it? What advice can you give me? You know, and just small, simple things, right? Like Jennifer sharing her background and experience. And I was thinking, gosh, I've been thinking about this for years and I'm not taking any action on it. I have to take action on this. She's right. This is the only way we're going to grow, the only way we're going to resource talent. And I already have proof of concept. I already hired this wonderful gal named Hannah, and she's doing a wonderful job. I know that this works. It works so well. I'm not doing it. Why am I not doing it? And it takes that time and that moment of connecting with other professionals and getting to know. And that's one of the things I constantly hammer on my protege. Be curious. Be curious. Don't worry about being interesting. Either people will find you interesting or they won't, but we spend a lot of time self-idolizing and we spend a lot of time thinking about how we could come into a room and be the most interesting person in that room. Man, if I could just raise my hand and ask a question that everyone's like in awe of, right? No, stop it. Be curious. Ask the questions. Be more curious about what's going on in somebody else's life and their background and their experience, because you don't know what you're going to glean off of that. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what's going to resonate. And I love doing this across industries because at the bottom of the day, we're all just people. And as I told you about our surge schedule, don't recreate the wheel. We are all human beings. We're all sort of in this motion. In the fall, we get together with our families. In the spring, we want to be health and fitness. In the summertime, we're enjoying our life. We were put on a planet out of all of the planets in the galaxies with these seasons to be able to go into a rhythm that is natural, it is biological, and it is spiritual. But we have to adapt to that. We have to embrace that. We have to enter into our life where we're not fighting against that. And if we can do that, and we can do it in a way that we come at it with humility and compassion, understanding, and curiosity for what other people are going through, imagine what you could derive. Imagine what possibilities are out there for you if you just take a moment, take a beat, take time to not think about yourself, but think about others and connect with other human beings in the most profound way that we have, which is the sharing of knowledge. Everything we do at the Perfect RA is about actionable items. We are in the pursuit of perfection. So here's an actionable item I want you to take right now. 1, I want you to create rules for going to conferences. I know this seems silly, but you have heard me talk to you about how ridiculous it is when everyone goes on break, reaches for their cell phone in their khaki pants, juts out the door and acts like they're the most important person in the world and have all these phone calls to return because you don't want to network, or you don't know who to go and talk to, or you don't know what to say. Make a rule for going to a conference. We had this with one of our executives. He's really kind of introverted. You would never, ever in a million years guess who it is, but he is. And so he made a rule for himself that every time he went to a venue, he had to go talk to 3 people that he didn't already know. And why? Because otherwise he knew he wouldn't. And my son is the same way. So when I took him to this tax conference, I said, hey, as a rule, you got to talk to 3 people by the end of the day that you don't already know. 3 very different people, and you have to ask each one 3 very different questions. Because otherwise, he would sit by himself. He would totally be introverted in that capacity. So we have to give ourselves these rules of conferences to push us out of our comfort zone so we can do the big work. And the big work is going to happen by meeting other like-minded people. Second action item that I want you to take, copy mine. Go figure out how to do a business card or something that you can give someone and say, I am hiring, I am growing. If you are ever looking in the future, please let me know. Because even if you are not hiring multiple team members, you know people that are desperately hiring. You know people that are looking for jobs, and making that introduction. I tell you what, one of my favorite all-time feelings is aligning someone with a job. That is an amazing feeling. When you can hook somebody up and they get hired and they love that job and it's good for both parties, it is phenomenal. Like, it is so humbling and great to know that you have been able to empower someone to live up to their next. So TPR Nation, this is Jamie Shalansky in an episode of Worlds to Conquer. Go find people who share your values and change the world.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The Perfect RIA.